Welcome, everyone, to the Fright Corner podcast. I'm your host, John, and this is episode 6. And on this episode, I'm joined once again by my good friend, Jeff.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
Yeah, great. And this is actually kind of a mega episode for us. We're kind of crossbreeding our two podcasts together.
Yeah, I've got the Edge of the Earth podcast, and we're going to be doing the version of this film that we're covering today, but the real-life story behind it, and kind of analyzing that.
Yes, and the movie that we're covering is the 1973 classic movie The Exorcist. Linda Blair was directed by William Friedkin, and it was written by William Peter Blatty, who also wrote the novel and the screenplay, so maybe that's why it transfers so well to the screen. But first off, I want to talk about a little bit of news here that we had seen kind of hit the Facebook world today, is that they're having a Underworld 5 come out called Blood Wars. And what little bit I read about it, obviously the same actress is coming back, but they said it's supposed to be a lot more gory than what they've had before. They're going to really amp up the gore than what they've done. What do you think of those movies yourself, Jeff?
Well, I've only seen the first two. I kind of fell off the bandwagon. But with the first two, I did enjoy the grittiness, and it's kind of a different take on the whole vampire thing. So it'll be interesting to see what they do. And I mean, it's been quite a while since the first one came out. I don't remember when it was exactly, but times have changed.
Oh, absolutely. And plus Kate Beckinsale, she has, aged very well, and she's fit that part so well. So I'm curious to see how it goes. Not necessarily saying I'll go to the theater to watch it by any means, but definitely when it comes out on demand or, as soon as I can get a hold of it through Netflix or Redbox or whatever, I'd probably check it out. Just say I did.
Right, yeah. And speaking of that, actually, I don't know if you would consider this a horror film, but I saw they also released a new trailer for a brand new Godzilla movie. But this is a Japanese version, so it's not kind of the Bryan Cranston sequel that we would have expected here. Did you happen to catch that?
I seen that the trailer was released, but I've yet to watch it. I glanced at it and seen that it was out, and I was going to check it out. I think it was called Godzilla Resurgence, I think is what they were calling it.
Yeah, something like that. It looks promising. It's definitely an ode to the original Japanese version of Godzilla. The Godzilla in this one looks just like the originals, except obviously with slightly better special effects.
Oh yeah, awesome. Especially seeing how, the original Godzilla's, gave birth to a lot of stuff. I mean, to classify them as horror, I guess you probably could as a monster flick, sci-fi horror monster flick. I mean, it could fit in one of those subgenres pretty easy. We can claim that one.
Yeah.
Like we've claimed many others, such as Ghostbusters, probably more of a comedy, but everybody kind of claims it as horror and stuff. So kind of the same thing. We can claim Godzilla under that monster flick for horror movies. So, okay, well, I guess we'll go ahead and start talking about The Exorcist a little bit. Now, this will probably have a few spoilers, but we're going to try to keep the spoilers down, especially if by some weird chance you haven't seen it. I encourage people to watch it. I think it's a great movie for what they did. It was pretty revolutionary at the time. So overall, what did you kind of think of the movie yourself, Jeff? I mean, just as an overall concept, what did you think of it?
Well, I've seen it multiple times, and every time I find it to be enjoyable. Even when you know what's going to happen ahead of time, it's just one of those movies that really, they didn't have the budgets that movies have now, but still they managed to pull off this extraordinary film that has so many layers to it. It's not just a movie about an exorcism. It's about all these different things going on, like the Catholic priest who's losing his faith at the time, and then you've got like the mother-daughter relationship and all these things going on at the same time. Like I said, it just had so many layers, and it really stands up, and it is extremely frightening, especially the first time you see it.
Oh, absolutely. I think that first time you see it, it leaves an impression on you, depending on, your faith and stuff, that can play a big factor in it too. But if you just take away all that and suspend disbelief and just immerse yourself into the movie, it's pretty terrifying when you look at it. Just, I mean, some of the scenes in the movie, like I said, you got the priest that's losing his faith, kind of questioning like, well, this isn't real. She needs a psychologist or whatever to help her out. She's faking it, until certain things happen in the movie that really identifies like, oh wait, maybe she is possessed. This unexplainable things start happening to really bring him back into his faith. And you got the old, let's see, the actor who, Max von Sydow, I think is his name. I thought he was pretty good in it, playing the elder priest that brought him in. Like, so this is real. This is what's going on. Kind of have that battle between good and evil, between the priest and this demon that has possessed this young girl. So.
Yeah, and the special effects alone in the movie were really, really well done. I remember when I was a lot younger, I want to say maybe 11 or 12, I had gotten this book that our neighbors had given me, and it was like a book of all the most famous characters in horror. And I would flip through there, and I would see guys like Jason and Freddy and all these. And then I got to Linda Blair from The Exorcist, and it was a close-up on that big green face, with like cuts and scratches all over it. And I remember just that one picture alone, never seeing the movie, frightened me so much. I would always like purposely try and skip over that page. Like, it always just freaked me out so much. And it wasn't even, it was bad to look at. It was rough to look at. So I applaud them for their effects on that one.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, and keep in mind, this was 1973, so practical effects is all they had to work with, and I think it's awesome. I really like the way they done it, and I've got a little bit of stuff on the effects that we can get into a little bit later. But kind of what they did behind the scenes and stuff anyway. But one thing I want to bring up is there are some questionable things that are done in this movie, obviously. And one of them I'm wondering if you remember is the scene with Linda Blair and the cross. Do you particularly remember the scene I am talking about by some chance?
Yes, definitely. I remember that one left an impression on me as well. I don't even know if they probably would do that nowadays, but still, like, it would be a big outrage now. So being that they did it back then, I can only imagine.
Oh yeah, I mean, just the reaction of people, I'm sure, was off the wall. Above all, I mean, to see some girl doing this, some young girl that done this, whether it was a stand-in or whatever, but still, it was the concept that this was, a 13-year-old girl masturbating with this cross and then shoving her mother's face into it. I mean, that's just pretty shocking to have. I'm surprised it even got through the MPAA ratings at the time, because they weren't as bad yet, I guess, not until, I think, in the late 70s when Friday the 13th and all that stuff was coming out. I knew they had issues with the ratings then. Maybe could be directly related to this movie, because they had a hard time getting just an R rating on some of them movies as they came out later. So this movie may have broke through a lot of other things too.
Yeah, I know we've had that discussion before in other instances, but like, there were some things back then that would be rated PG that nowadays there's no way they would be PG. They would be, probably rated R. I don't remember in terms of vulgarity, but maybe some nudity slipped into the PG and got away with it. Nowadays in this politically correct atmosphere, that would never happen.
Oh yeah, absolutely. See, when I reviewed Legend of Hell House, like I said, it was rated PG back in the early 70s there. But yeah, I mean, there's pretty well a full-blown naked woman running around in part of that movie that you catch, and it's like, that was rated PG at the time. Now, if they're trying to show that now, it seems like they're trying to push it for X rating if you do that at all.
Yeah, it's funny. I can just imagine the guys back there, the dads trying to justify the movie. Well, the boy's seen his mama running around naked. That boy's fine. It's just natural.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I guess that's for that. We could get whole. Like I said, I want to do one on the rating system really bad, because I think it would be good to see the evolution of the rating system, what they've done from the early days of the 30s to what we have now. I just think it's a pretty neat evolution of the rating system that we've had over the time, plus the other countries that have had movies released from us that are sometimes even still now banned. They won't even allow them to be played over there. But I said that's another podcast anyway.
Yeah, it's an interesting idea for sure.
Okay, as for the movie, I mean, what are some of your other likes for it? What really stood out for, as for the plot, how did you think the plot played out for you?
I was happy with it. I mean, the plot was something I barely even thought about because the movie was so scary. I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing, but it definitely held my attention the entire time. I was interested, to find out, if she was actually possessed, which obviously in the movie she was for sure. I mean, there's just so much to it, especially with the scare factor. I mean, like when the priest comes in and she like projectile vomits onto him. I mean, all these things it does take away from the plot just a little bit, but uh, I mean, and especially when I watched it the first time too, I was still Christian at the time, so like it made it even more real for me. Kind of like you said in the open of the show, it felt so much more real than maybe it might now, but still, it stuck with me for sure.
Oh, absolutely. And I thought the movie moves pretty good. You don't have too many dull moments in it. We
Right?
open,
Yeah.
even from the opening, just being at the archaeology site to, skipping ahead to her playing with the Ouija board and being possessed. I mean, it just keeps unraveling, and you still got the story to hold your attention, but you got that horror effect that you want to turn away, but it's like, no, I got to see how they do this, or I want to see what happens next. And
Yeah, it's interesting that it starts at that archaeology site because that does feel, I mean, it almost feels like a completely different movie. You know, you get this outdoor scene that's super bright just to start out with in the middle of the desert. And what's really interesting is that area that they claimed they found the artifact or whatever, it's actually controlled by ISIS now, that area in real life. So it kind of comes full circle almost. You know, it's now owned by the most evil group in the world, and that's where they found this artifact.
yeah, and I mean that could be said about a lot of things too. But yeah, I just thought that was kind of neat the way it all just kind of spurs full circle. Even in life, it's like life imitates art a little bit there. Also, for me, I guess in this movie that I really did enjoy was the music score. I mean, that music score is just so known that I don't know how else to explain it, but I thought that it was just wonderful. I don't know what you think.
No, you're exactly right. I mean, audio music in particular can break a movie. You know, sometimes it can be so quiet underneath the dialogue that you don't even notice it, but still, it's subconsciously giving that effect on you mentally that you know to be scared, or you know to be happy, or you know that this is a funny, lighthearted moment. Even the audio in general, like the actors, their audio sounds. I don't know if it was just because of the remaster or what, but their audio sounds so crisp and dialogue is so clear. I was really impressed.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, I was impressed with that too. And and touch on the music score just a little bit more was when they first screening the original Halloween movie without the music, they thought, well, this is garbage. But as soon as they add that music to it, it was terrifying to the audience then. That builds so much suspense to it. And I mean, I just think that a score needs to be pretty rememberable for a movie to have a full effect on people through over time.
Yeah, yeah, I completely agree.
So, out of all these positives, what about dislikes for the movie? Did you have very many dislikes for it, or what do you think?
Um, Not really very many dislikes, honestly. Like you said, the movie moved at a pretty good pace. Um, the audio was good. The special effects were pretty good. Uh, I don't know. I mean, maybe if I disliked anything, it would be almost. Well, I don't know. I can't even really say that it's a Christian propaganda piece because I mean it is promoting Christianity or it's promoting that it kind of works. But then again, it's a horror movie, so you have to take creative liberties. So I don't know. What do you think? I mean, I don't have very many dislikes, honestly.
Really, for myself, I don't have hardly any dislikes at all. I think that it's not a perfect movie by any means. I'm sure there's some stuff I'd go back and watch it over and over and over, but all the positives stick out to me, and I just can't find hardly any negative in it. I mean, the dialogue works, and I mean, there's a couple of things that I guess I could bring up. Is at the end there was a detective that was all involved in this, and then after Father Marin kills himself over the whole thing, then he comes up with the idea that, well, maybe this girl was really the killer, but yet he was involved with the whole thing and still don't believe it. So I mean, that just kind of threw me off a little bit there at the end. But other than that, I don't have many dislikes for this movie.